Today's a little tricky. The thing is this. You're going to follow the process. You're not going to memorize everything I do today. Do you understand? You're going to follow the process. All I care about is following the process. I'll tell you at the end what you need to remember. Follow the process. All right, here we go. Quadratic equation. Put your phone away. What is the standard form quadratic equation? You're missing some stuff there. Ax squared plus bx plus c. Now, if I was solving for x-intercepts, I wouldn't want f of x. I want it equal to what? 0. Okay? And if a lot of you are like, yes, we're done graphing. No, we're not. We're graphing till Christmas. Okay? So, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Now, remember completing the square. A little bit. I'll show you in a second. So we completed the square before. Now, in order to complete the square, we need to move this c to the other side. So in order to move it to the other side, how would you do that? What's the inverse operation to move it to the other side? So what was it? Subtract c. So now I have ax squared plus bx, leave a space, equals negative c, right? Okay, we did this before. It just looks different right now. So this is what you're going to put in your margin over here. I'm just going to write it on my Post-it because it's easier for me to not move back and forth. So x squared plus 4x plus something. Remember when we did this? I want you to watch for a second. After you write that down, just watch. It'll refresh your memory. Okay, who remembers what this one represents? What does this represent? X squared. What do these represent? What is it? The 1x. And what does this represent? X squared, x, and 1. You're acting like first period right now. It's going to take us a really long time to get through this.
Okay, let's kick it up now, folks.
Okay, so if I have x squared, I have one of these. How many of the green ones do I have? 4. And you're finding what you're adding, right? And remember, we need to make a square. Is this a square?
It's like a rectangle.
It is a rectangle. It's not a square. So in order to make a square, how do I make it a square?
Move the half of the 2.
Move half of the 2 x's where? On the bottom, like this?
No.
Like this, right? And to complete the square, you need how many? 4 of the little ones. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? Now, is it a square? Yeah. It is. I can draw it, put it together. Yes? It's a square. So what are you adding here? Positive 4. Remember? Okay, let's draw this picture. You should have all this in the margin already. The margin. Dakota, that's not the margin. Now, what is the length here? How much is this length? X. And how much is this length? 2. How much is this length? X. And this is what? 2. So you have X plus 2 and X plus 2, right? Yes? Which is X plus 2 what? No. Squared. Make sense? We did this before. So there was a little bit of a rule. So let's mix it up. Let's pretend I give you We're going to switch it to see if we remember. Still in your margin. X squared plus 6x plus something. X squared plus 6x plus something. So now I've given you 6 x's. We need to still make a square. So how many do we move? 3. And they go to the bottom, yeah? Or the other side, over here. And how much goes here? 9, right? So what are you doing in your head? How did we figure that out? You divided what? Divided what? What by 2? You divided the 6 by 2, which is how much? 3. And then what did you do with that 3 in your head? Multiply by it by what? Y squared. Because this is 3 times 3, right? So you squared that to get what? 9. Remember? We did this over and over again, right? Okay. So what are my 2 binomials? X plus 3 and x plus 3, which is x plus 3 what? Squared. Yes? This kind of makes sense, remember? So that became that. I didn't put the 9 here, but you know there's 9 little ones. Yeah? These ones go here. Okay? Make sense? Do you remember this? Because I'm going to go over this process again, but now it has weird letters. All right? Okay. We good to go on? Okay. So what are we doing? Well, we took it and we moved C to the other side. Now I want you to notice the A term in both of these examples that I showed you on Post-its is what? What's your A term? How much is A? 1. Is A technically 1 right here? I don't know what it is, but it's not technically 1. At this point, A could be anything, right? Because it just tells me it's A. I don't really know what A is, but A could be 4, it could be negative 1/2. I don't really know, so we need to get rid of A. Now, in order to get rid of A, what is the inverse operation to get rid of A? Division. What are you going to divide by? Divide by A. If I divide that by A, what else gets divided by A? Your C. Is that it? Your B has to get divided by A. You have to divide every single thing you see by A. Okay? All right, I'm going to rewrite what we have. We have x squared, because A divided by A is just 1. We have positive B over A times x. We have still a space, and we have a negative C over A on the other side of the equal sign. Make sense? Questions? We followed what happened, right? Okay. Now we're looking at this piece right here. We're looking at what do I add here? What am I going to add here? Now, think of the process. What did I do with the process? You divided by what? By 2. So we took the middle term and divided by 2. So the middle term is going to divide by 2. Okay? We have B over A. I'm going to write it in parentheses so we understand that that's what I'm doing. B over A divided by 2. All right? Does that make sense? So instead of doing it on the side, I'm actually just going to do it here in this spot. So I've taken this term, I divided it by 2.
Once there's numbers in there, then you take the number.
Yes, if there was number, you would just divide it in half.
Divide it, and then do division. Like divide B by A, and then take that number, then divide it by 2.
Yes. So we're just using it in variables right now. Okay. Can you divide fractions? Yes or no? Yeah? Okay, so what you get? Do you really divide fractions? No. You what? Multiply by what? I heard it. 1/2. What's the 1/2 called? How'd you know it was 1/2? You have to be able to tell me. How do you know it's 1/2? Mm-mm. We said multiply. Why is it 1/2? Mm-mm. You have to what? Flip it. Flipping it's called the reciprocal. So you're going to multiply by the reciprocal. The reciprocal of 2 over 1 is 1 over 2. That is why it's 1/2. Okay, this is all still dividing by 2. Do you understand? I have not done anything else right now but divide by 2. I just had fractions, so I had to make it look normal. All right, multiplying by 1/2 is what? B over A times 1/2 is what? Guys, B times 1. B over A times 2. 2A. There you go. You're making it hard. Don't make it hard. Okay. Then you have to do what with it? So we're at this part. We divided by 2. We barely just divided by 2. Then what do I do with it? Then you square it. Do you see the squared? So now I'm going to square this. Now I'm going to go to the margin for myself. And you're going to bring it somewhere else. You can do it in the margin, or you can do it like in a little bubble cloud. We have B over 2A squared. What does it mean to be B over 2A squared? What does it mean you have?
2B, 4A.
No. What does it mean you have?
Double. Like you have another.
Yeah, so you have B over 2A and B over 2A. Which means, what's B times B? B squared. What's 2A times 2A? 4A squared. Good. Good? All right, I'm going to go fill that in over there. I need to move my paper. Okay, fill it in right there. Positive B squared over 4A squared. Now, whatever I add to one side, I have to do what? I have to add it to the other side. I have an equal sign, so it's on the opposite side. So whatever I do to one side, I must do to the other, so it's a fair equation. We good?
Why do you square root it?
Square root it? I didn't square root nothing. Square it?
Yeah.
Because that's what we did here. Remember, we divide by 2, and then we square it to get the 9. Good? Okay, all I'm going to do next is rewrite this whole thing so you can see what I'm starting with. So it looks like a new problem. So you have x squared plus b over 8x plus b squared over 4a squared equals negative c over a plus b squared over 4a squared. All I did was rewrite it because I'm going to do another step, but I don't want it to be mixed up in this one. Do you understand? Otherwise, your colors will start to get confused. So I rewrote it so it's nicer. Now, we're going to go ahead and ignore the left-hand side for right now. We're only going to look at the right-hand side. What do you notice is over there? 2 what? 2 fractions with a plus sign in the middle. What does it mean to be a plus? That means we can try to what? We can try and add them. In order to add fractions, what do they have to have? Common denominator. So we have to find a common denominator. Now, let's look. Am I going to multiply the first fraction or the second fraction? Probably the first. So I know I'm going to multiply this first one by something. I don't know if I need to multiply the second one by anything yet, but I might. Just right now I know I need to multiply the first one. So this has a 4 and this one does not. So automatically I know this one has to have a what? Has to have a 4. This has a squared. This has 1a. So what does that mean? It needs an a. Good? Questions? That's a 4a. My 4 got kind of smushed into the parentheses. Whatever you multiply to the bottom, you have to multiply to the top. Okay. I'm going to rewrite it on the right-hand side. So I have 4a times negative c. What's 4a times negative c? Well, negative 4ac. What's 4a times a? 4a squared. Plus b squared over 4a squared. I think it's an email.
Why do you look so guilty?
Because it's really loud on the speaker. Good? Make sense? Okay, over here. We're now at this part where I said, okay, here's my, I had x squared, and I had the 3x's and the 3x's, remember? Now I'm at this part where I'm like, hey, I need to factor this, right? I need something squared. And you told me here that it was x plus 3, which is x plus 3 squared. And this looks very similar to something up here, correct? Where does this 3 come from?
6 divided by 2.
6 divided by 2, which was 3. Remember? Because now that's a length of 3 and a length of 3, which is now 3, x plus 3. If I did this one, what's 4 divided by 2? 2. And then you square that to get 4, right? So this is x plus 2 and x plus 2, so there's that same 2. Yes? Make sense? We did this before. So over here, I'm looking. I know it's going to be x, and I need to find the place where I finally divided by 2. What is that value when I finally divided by 2? b over, careful, 2a. Because remember, this whole process here was all just dividing by 2. Okay? So this right here is after I divided by 2 before I squared it. Remember? So this is what I'm looking for here, which is going to get me this here. Good? Okay. We're going to rewrite this side. Nothing is happening. We're just going to write x plus b over 2a quantity squared equals, ouch, on this side, we need to put it together. We need to make it look nice. What are we going to put on the bottom? 4a squared. Now on the top, I'm going to mush it together, but I'm going to mush it together a little differently because I want b squared in the front because I don't really like that minus sign. Plus it's standard form, and standard form says x squareds go first, or whatever squared goes first, right? So we're going to put b squared first because that's the squared term, and then 4ac can go at the end. Now there's something that gets rid of a squared. What gets rid of a squared? We've done it. I think we're going to say it. Square root. Square root gets rid of a squared. So we're going to square root both sides, because whatever we do to one, we have to do to the other. So I'm going to go ahead and square root both sides. Now, dun dun dun. This just cancels, right? Square root and square root just cancel. So we get x plus b over 2a equals, over here, let's talk about it. On the side, go to your margin, because this is something new you probably haven't seen. What is the square root of 4? Because why? 2 times 2 is what? 4. Yes? Question, what's negative 2 times negative 2? Positive 4. Oh, wait. But you told me the square root of 4 was only 2, which means that only 2 times 2 works. Negative 2 times negative 2 works too. Or also. I shouldn't say 2 because that's weird. Also. Correct? Oh my gosh. So, this is not necessarily 2. This is positive 2 and negative 2. Okay? It's a positive 2 because positive 2 times positive 2 is 4. But it's also negative 2 because negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. Do you understand? From here on out, every time you take the square root, you will have how many answers? 2. You will have a positive and a negative. We don't say positive and negative, we say plus or minus. It's just easier to say. So plus or minus 2, which is fine. But you will know that it's positive 2 and negative 2. Got it? Make sense? Because that's your homework. All right. So over here, we need to put positive and negative. because we're taking the square root of something. So we have to break this up because we don't like it like this. The other thing is this. If I gave you the square root of 29 over 4, we learned that we can break this up to be the square root of 29 over the square root of 4, correct? Does that make sense? We learned that back in Unit 1. So because of that rule, we're going to go ahead and break this piece up. We're going to say the square root of b squared minus 4ac over the square root of 4a squared. Are you good? I know it's a lot of nonsense, but it's okay. Now this part's not changing still. It's still x plus b over 2a equals. Do you think you can take the square root of b squared minus 4ac? No, there's a subtraction there. We can't break it up. We only can break up things that are being multiplied, right? So that has subtraction. It's going to stay b squared minus 4ac divided by, what is the square root of 4a squared? 2a. You did that in Unit 1. So if you're still stuck on that, that's back in August. All right? We did that part in August. So square root of 4a squared is 2a. Now, this whole process is to get us x equals, right? Because it was equal to 0. And normally we'd factor and get x equals 4 and x equals 5, or whatever the case was. Now we don't know how to do that, so we're still stuck with x. We need to get x by itself. In order to get x by itself, what do you move? b over 2a. What's the inverse operation to move it to the other side? Okay. Now, since it's a fraction, and this is a fraction, I'm going to put it on the side over here. So minus b over 2a. You okay? Double fraction, so I just moved it to the other side. Well, I know this is 0. Good. I know this is just x equals. I don't like it at the end because I have this ugly radical thing, so I'm going to move that whole piece to the front. So it's going to say negative b over 2a. And then I still have plus or minus, and I still have the radical of b squared minus 4ac, and I have that over 2a. Good? All I did was flip-flop where it was. That's all I did. No craziness happening right there. Now I'm looking at it, and I see two fractions with what? Common denominators. And if they have a common denominator, I get to what? I get to add them or subtract them or whatever. Now, since I have a plus or minus, am I really going to add or subtract or just kind of mush it together? Kind of just mush it together. So I'm going to get x is equal to negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac. And the whole thing is over 2a. Did we solve for x? We did. You did. Hey, what did we say we're going to derive? Quadratic what? Oh, the quadratic formula. You found it. If you're an avid, you've probably seen it because Johnson's already there and so is Chang. Morales and I are not. Good? Questions? All right, what do I want you to know from this? I want you to know we started with a standard quadratic equation. So key notes that you need to probably write down. We started with a standard quadratic equation. You wanted to solve for x. So in order to solve for x, we had to complete the square. Now, when you're writing your summary and you're referencing complete the square, don't talk about this ugly thing, because this is ugly, right? Talk about your basic one you put over in the margin. Do you understand? So when you're referencing completing the square, you can reference something easy like x squared plus 6x plus 9. Don't reference this huge ugly thing, because it's ugly. And then at the end, what was our goal? To get to the quadratic formula, and we got there. So should the quadratic formula be in your summary? Probably. Okay? Does that make sense? Questions? What do you need to know from that? Just the process of the steps. What is the key thing you need to memorize? quadratic equation is what you started with. All right. On that note, transfer. Oh, look, it's my notes. Oops, cancel. Yeah. We're loading very slowly today. Come on, you can do it. Just leave. There it is. Okay. Oh, there's a reason why there's an IM2 link. Oh, look at that. Okay, listen very carefully. You're going to sing it. Now, the first time, you're going to listen to it. And as it plays, you're going to start to sing it. And after the one time it sings it 4 times, if you're still not singing, you're going to come up here and sing it by yourself. So don't be that person. There you go.
X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a.
Start singing.
X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a.
Good job, good job. All right, there's a reason why you had to sing it. You should know it now. How many of you are like, I know it? Oh, good, because you have to have it memorized.